is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It's your boy, UnclefOOlio, and I'm back with another episode of the Kontroversy, ladies and gentlemen. As always, these episodes are sponsored by Nothing But Knicks. Make sure you like and subscribe to the channel. Also, hit the notification bell to be notified of any content that we got going, whether it be pregame coverage, postgame coverage, shoot-around videos, Queens Court, and any other content that we put out there for you, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, the Knicks are going through a tough stretch right now. Right, tough stretch. We're not playing our best basketball, and we have a losing record right now. As it stands, we'll be out of the playoffs. Right, so there's a lot of stuff that's going around Knicks Twitter and the Knicks universe, how we can potentially make this team better. What are the problems? And here I'm here to talk about the front office, ladies and gentlemen. Topic of this video is the front office to blame for some of these Knicks problems that we've been having this season. I am joined today by the host and creator of the Blorange Tears Channel, ladies and gentlemen. He is one of my favorite content creators out there, my guy, someone I look up to in regards to this content creating thing. And I'm joined by him as we're going to debate and discuss the front office, ladies and gentlemen. So without further ado, I am joined by the one, the only, Uncle Freezie. Uncle Freezie, what is going on with you, my man? How you doing?
What's good, man? It feels good to be back on Nothing But Knicks, man. This feels good. I feel like I'm home. Hey, and thank you also for inviting me, man. I'm really humbled and appreciate the opportunity to kick it with you for a little bit.
Oh, yeah. I mean, of course, I know we've been talking about this for a long time about potentially getting you on here so we can debate. I know you're the host of that debate league, you know what I'm saying? But now I have this platform where I can be able to debate you one-on-one. No outside interference, nobody cutting each other off. You know what I'm saying? This is just me versus you, mano y mano.
Right.
Go Navy, beat Army, as always.
Right.
Got to throw that out there. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, you should change the name of this to the UnclefOOlio Death March.
UnclefOOlio Death March.
Yes, because you are about to get. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Okay. Well, we're gonna find out. We're gonna find out. You know what I'm saying? But as always, thank you for coming on here. I really appreciate it.
For
those watching, make sure you subscribe to the Blorange Tears Channel. I got the link in the description of this video, so make sure you go check out his content. Dope content as always. You got the Pod Couple show. You got the Knicks Morning Drive. You got the Knicks After Party.
Knicks
so much
Freestyle.
Knicks Freestyle. Yeah,
Knicks
so much
Morning
good
Drive.
content. Yeah,
so much stuff. Yeah, we stay busy, bro. We stay busy.
So definitely check him out. And as always, thank you for coming on. But let's get right to it. Enough with the pleasantries and everything like that. I wanted to bring you on for this specific topic because I know you have been very outspoken in your criticism for the front office. So right off the bat, I'm going to ask this question right here. Should the front office be held accountable? Now, look, the Knicks aren't playing their best basketball right now. You obviously have strong opinions about the front office. So tell me, should the Knicks front office be held accountable? And explain your reasoning why you think they should be held accountable.
Well, for one, we should, I should clarify, right? So what should the front office be held accountable for? Who should they be held accountable to? Did they give a reasonable expectation for the cards they were dealt?
Okay.
Right. So for one, what should they be held accountable for? Right. So this front office should be held accountable for the swings and misses that started from day one on the job. Okay. So day one on the job. So before Leon Rose was hired, we frequent a media market that there's no such thing as a secret, right? Everything is the worst kept secret in the media market that we get our information from, right? Okay. So when the rumor was Leon Rose was going to be the guy, we thought Leon Rose and Chris Paul were going to be a package deal, right? That was like the worst kept secret ever. Right. So what happens is Leon Rose comes in. We don't get, and think about this and the time that it happened and not in real time.
Okay.
So we don't get Chris Paul. We don't get Russell Westbrook from Houston. We don't get John Wall from Washington. Right. We don't get Fred VanVleet from Toronto. Right. We don't get Dennis Schroeder. So there are a lot of point guards out there we don't get. But the first thing they do, first day on the job, is cut Elfrid Payton. You remember that? Cut Elfrid Payton. Turn down his second-year option, right? And we don't get Ricky Rubio, we don't get Chris Paul, we don't get Russell Westbrook, we don't get John Wall, we don't get anybody, right? Then we have to go back and beg Elfrid Payton to come back. Right? So we have to go back and beg Elfrid Payton to come back. And then once we re-sign him, we can't trade him because you can't cut a guy and then bring him back and then trade him. So you know what that makes you look like as a front office guy? It makes you look like the village idiot. Because you bring the guy in, you know he didn't fit in the first place, you beg him to come back, and then you can't even get rid of him. Thank you, Leon Rose. You look like Inspector Clouseau. Not only do you not go get a point guard, you bring back the one that Knicks fans hated, and then you couldn't even get rid of him. You can't trade him for nothing. So all year long, all Uncle Foolio and myself can say is every time Elfrid Payton shoots a jump shot, a broken backboard gets his wings. That's what we said all year because Elfrid Payton couldn't shoot. And at one point in the season, Elfrid Payton was useless. And then at the trade deadline, when we all waited with bated breath for him to pull off the trade for Lonzo Ball, we waited. The KMD, we did a 7-hour-long Knicks morning drive. And I know people out there watching us saying, how do you do a Knicks morning drive for 7 hours? Shouldn't that mean it was a Knicks afternoon drive? Yes. Right? But that's semantics, right? And come to find out, we couldn't get Lonzo Ball from New Orleans because we didn't want to trade one of the first round picks that we had, right? We didn't want to give up a first round pick, right? But the draft comes. In a loaded draft, you trade out of the draft, right? Because you get nervous and can't pick a guy, and you trade back into a draft next year or this year, 2022, that is dormant of quality NBA talent.
Okay, so I need to go back to some because this is broken down. I like the way you broke all this down. I mean, you're very, very methodical in how you broke that down. But I'm going to go back to the beginning. First of all, you said that you thought that Leon Rose and Chris Paul was a package deal. I want to get to that. So I'm trying to figure out what made you think that the Knicks, because they got Leon Rose, that Chris Paul was guaranteed to come here. Why would you think that that's a package deal?
From what I hear, from what I heard, Leon Rose was Chris Paul's agent, and Chris Paul was not satisfied in Oklahoma City. Mm-hmm. Right? And so Chris Paul was looking to leave, right? Go somewhere where he can, blah, blah, blah. Oklahoma City wasn't the place. And we saw Chris Paul revive his career in OKC. Remember, people thought in Houston he was washed. Remember, he's washed up. He hardened every big moment. He get hurt every time he, on the big stage, he pull a muscle or something and blah, blah, blah. So he gets traded for Russell Westbrook. Whatever, no big deal. The Knicks had nothing to do with that. But the Knicks were in the market for a point guard, had a ton of cap space at the time, right? Had the 2 Dallas picks at the time. And so what we thought was this agent that was Chris Paul's friend, right, was taking on a new gig in a city that needed a point guard. And so Knicks fans assumed, and so did the media, right? The media fed into this also, that we thought this was a package deal. So what turns out is nobody wants to take our money, even with Leon Rose.
So here's where I think you're looking at it the wrong way. Okay. I wanted Chris Paul. Chris Paul was a point guard I definitely felt like could help this team. I never thought he was washed. I don't know where that narrative came from. I know he had some injuries in the playoffs with Houston. I think, if he didn't get hurt, Houston might have been in the finals that season. Might have been in the finals that year. So I never questioned Chris Paul's ability to ball, even at his age, ever. Right. I still think he has a lot of years left that he can be able to play at a really high level, and it would be great for a team with a bunch of young guys to be able to set them up. And he's a point guard that we've been needing. Et cetera, et cetera. But here's where you're wrong about Chris Paul. First of all, the Knicks had a bunch of cap space. They didn't have a bunch of players. In order for the Knicks to acquire Chris Paul, it would have had to been a trade, right? So who were you going to trade on the Knicks, right, to equal his $40 million contract? The Knicks didn't have $40 million in contracts that they could be able to trade at the time.
Right. But UnclefOOlio, again, we should change this to the UnclefOOlio death march. Right.
Okay.
Because, and here's why. Because in a situation where one team is over the cap and another team is not, we can absorb that contract. You don't have to match contracts dollar for dollar. That only happens with both teams over the salary cap. Okay. So we could have took on Chris Paul's salary, and the players that you mentioned. Think about who Chris Paul got traded for: Kelly Oubre and Abdel Nader. Think about that. So when you look at that, you're thinking like, could the Knicks have offered something similar to Kelly Oubre Jr. and Abdel Nader? I think we could have, right? I think we could have. Man, but let me, and if you don't mind me saying this, Damian Dotson just signed with the Knicks.
Nice. We need the body.
Yeah, we need the body. Free Dot.
But I'm still trying to figure out why you thought that Leon Rose and Chris Paul was a package deal. I mean, that's where you messed up. I mean, honestly, I don't understand where that came from. Why you thought they were a package deal? I just don't think that was the right thing to say. And moving forward ahead of what you said. Elfrid Payton. You said that the Knicks had to beg Elfrid Payton to come back and take their money. The Knicks had to beg Elfrid Payton.
Right.
How? Why does the Knicks need to go beg Elfrid Payton to go take their money?
Who else was on the radar? You got turned down by four other. The front office made offers to four other point guards, and this is newspaper stuff. They made the offers to Jeff Teague. Jeff Teague turned them down. They made an offer to DJ Augustine. DJ Augustine turned them down, and like some other backup borderline point guards, and nobody wanted to sign with the Knicks. We wind up having to go get Elfrid Payton back. Right?
I don't necessarily think that it was people saying no to the Knicks. I just think that they probably felt that they were in a better situation somewhere else, which is totally fine. But it's not like people were saying no to the Knicks. I don't want to come play for the Knicks, because it's New York and stuff like that. I think that's a false narrative that people constantly throw out there. The Knicks can't ever get anybody, so why actually go after anybody because we can't get anybody? Nobody wants to come here. I don't think that's necessarily the case. And you mentioned these guys like Westbrook and a lot of these. I wanted Russell Westbrook. I'm a big Russell Westbrook fan, right? But again, I just don't think that. First of all, you have to trade for players like that. Westbrook, Wall, who are in the middle of contracts, right?
Huge contracts.
Right. And listen, that doesn't dissuade me. I love, play. I'm not gonna say I love big contracts, but I think those players are worth the money. Maybe not John Wall per se, because he's always injured, right? But I'm not afraid to go out and sign players for money. So that's not gonna dissuade me. However, Houston and teams like that, they have to be willing to shed salary. Right. So if the team does not want to shed salary, you can't assume that the front office didn't do their due diligence going after players like that. The other team has to say yes to the deal. It's a two-way thing.
Right.
I don't think that's necessarily on the front office. So I'm trying to figure out why would I think that? Yeah. Why do you think the front office failed in that regard to go out and get players like that who were under contract that they had to trade for when the Knicks didn't really have anybody on the roster? All they had was cap space.
Well, what enticed Houston to make that deal was draft picks, because basically they swapped salary for salary and years for years. Basically, they swapped salary for salary and years for years. What enticed Houston to do it was draft picks, and the Knicks had draft picks. At the time, we had 2 first-round picks, and that draft, 1 in another draft, and then 2 in another draft, and second-round picks, right? So what I'm getting at with the front office is, why are you not willing to make these moves when you know the position has been devoid of talent for years? How you make an impact on a team is by doing something greater than the guys before you did. That's how you ingratiate yourself to a new organization. You know what I mean? It's like when I first saw you jump on Nothing But Knicks. I was like, who is this guy? He don't hold his tongue for nobody. I like this dude. Because people was like, yes, Sam, yep, yes, Sam. And this dude was like, wait a minute. And so I'm like, I like this guy right here. You know?
Now,
And so you made an impression on the organization by doing something greater than the dudes before you did. That's what I feel like the front office didn't do and have not done since they've been here.
do you think that they can? Because I
No.
think that we still have these picks. We still have an abundance of picks. We have 9 second-round picks over the next 2 years alone. I think we have four first-round picks over the next 2 years alone. So the Knicks still have that draft capital. So what makes you think that the Knicks won't be able to do that?
Because they're incompetent.
They're incompetent.
Yeah.
So you think the front office has ruined this organization? You think the front office? You think this team is in a worse position to succeed than before them?
No, I just think they're in over their head. I think that the position that they took on was greater than it looked like when they were interested in the position. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying Leon Rose is not a great agent. I'm not saying that Worldwide West doesn't have great connections. But where are those talents when it comes to running the New York Knicks? See, this is not Memphis, Tennessee. This is not San Antonio, Texas. You know what I'm saying? This is not Minneapolis, Minnesota.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? It's not Charlotte, North Carolina.
This is the number one market in the world. We're talking about New York here. I got you.
Right.
I'm with you.
Right. Everything you do is under a microscope. People are going to be like, Leon Rose, you ate a turkey sandwich yesterday that was sliced in triangles instead of squares. Because this is New York, bro. We track everything, right? And so the thing is with New York, and I know Knicks fans don't want to admit this, but we are crazy, bro. We are a different type fan base, and we are, man. Listen, did you hear the crowd during the playoffs at the Garden?
Yeah, it's not like
insane,
no other.
Insane,
like no other,
bro.
Very unique.
Insane.
Yeah.
Insane. You and I were in Charlotte, North Carolina, at the Knicks game, right? Obi Toppin dunked in the Spectrum Arena, and the roof almost blew off the place in a road game on a Friday night against a team that's not even our rival. We're crazy, bro. Knicks fans are everywhere, bro. This Knicks thing is insane, man.
I'm still trying to figure out why you said the front office is incompetent, because you haven't said anything really to lead me to believe that they're incompetent or incapable of doing, making this team better. I will say this, right? $60-something million in cap space, and for Evan Fournier and Kemba Walker to be your two best options you can be able to come away with. I had a problem with that. I had a problem to Sim and Steph on free agency night when Evan Fournier was the guy that we signed for $20 million. I wanted DeMar DeRozan. Everyone was like, DeMar DeRozan can't shoot. He can't do this. He can't do that. He's making a huge impact for the Bulls right now. So I'm with you on that. With $60 million, you got to be able to have a better showing in free agency, 100%. However, I'm not going to sit here and say that the front office has been completely terrible and that they have I'm not saying you said this, but it seems to me like a lot of people that have an issue with the front office think that this team is in a worse position that they are now than what they are before the front office, Leon Rose even got here, which I don't agree with. I think the front office has done a lot of things, particularly the trade for Derrick Rose. I think that was a very, very important trade.
Oh, come on. Bro.
I think that was a very, very important trade for the organization. I think
that was your ace of spades. That was your ace of spades. That's what you dragged me on here for, the Derrick Rose trade.
No, not just that, but also the draft. Also the draft. A lot of these guys that we've got later on in the late round draft picks are huge contributors right now. Look at Emmanuel Quickley, right? Emmanuel Quickley, Quentin Grimes. We got these guys after pick 25 later on in the draft, and they're going to be heavy contributors for this team. The Knicks have the number one bench in the NBA right now, right? And that's largely due to Emmanuel Quickley, who they found later on in the rounds, right? Miles McBride. They got Miles McBride in the second round, and he was projected to go in the first round. So the front office has done a lot of things, you know what I'm saying, to help improve this team. They haven't been perfect, right? Free agency, they haven't been perfect, right? But as far as
the draft, they were not perfect. The draft, they were not.
Well, I'm not going to say they were perfect with that either, but they had a pretty good draft. And people are saying, "Oh,
they had a pretty ham sandwich draft."
Bro. They traded down. I thought that was important because you just acquired more assets and you give yourself ability to be flexible later on.
A second round pick in 2024. They traded down to get They traded down to get a second-round pick in 2024.
They actually got one of Charlotte's first-round picks.
What?
They got one of Charlotte's first-round picks.
No, not that trade down scenario. I'm talking about when they got Grimes.
Okay.
So there was a Keon Johnson trade where they traded down with the Clippers and got, you know what I'm saying, whatever, and, you know, the Clippers pick and a second-round pick in 2024, and then the Kai Jones thing, they got Charlotte's pick and blah, you know. But Uncle Foolio, what I'm saying is this, bro. Right? The Derrick Rose trade could have been pulled off by Steve Mills. Because in theory, you're saying, hey, let me give you this draft bust in Dennis Smith Jr. and a second-round pick for a former MVP that is improving his three-point shooting. Plus, he wants to be in New York anyway. Right? Who couldn't pull that trade off?
But they did it.
Okay.
We're talking about what happened. We're not talking about hypothetical. They're the ones that actually did it. And it worked.
All right.
Okay. Right? Am I lying? Am I right?
Okay. All right. I'll give them, okay.
Am I right? Am I right about that, though?
That is a fact. That is a fact.
They actually did it. So we can be hypothetical about, anybody could have pulled it off. Steve Mills is terrible. Terrible.
Steve Mills was terrible, bro.
Steve Mills was one of the worst front office executives ever. And he was in the organization. He was in the organization for 20 years. He was here for the Isaiah Thomas, the Larry Brown.
He is still in the organization. People don't know that. He's still in the organization. And Steve Mills is a brilliant businessman, exceptionally smart. But basketball, no.
And he's a loyalist to James Dolan. But that goes without saying. But let me highlight some of these comments. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Let me just get people on here. Let's go. Salute to Andy. Andy M, what's going on with you? Pudge Nice, what's going on? Geraldine MacGyver, what's going on? Happy holidays to you as well. All right. Shot Powers, what's going on with you? Corey Jones, love how you brothers support one another as always, man. MBK fan, Blorange Tears family. Don't start this garbage, Josh. Okay, what garbage did I say? I don't know what you're talking about, State. I am Jarrell. What's going on, Jarrell? How you doing? All right, let's see. Canal Band Lawyer. Rose did well in assembling his front office outside of Perry. So I'm going to talk about Scott Perry for a little bit because it seems to me like people don't like Scott Perry. I think Scott Perry is still one of the most respected executives in the NBA. I think he is going to get a front office position running his own organization at some point. I think where the Knicks have him in a GM spot, I don't think that's bad for us. But how do you feel about Scott Perry, that whole dynamic?
I like Scott Perry. Right. My deal with Scott Perry, though, is he is not a risk taker.
Okay.
Right. And front offices that are adverse to taking risks are front offices that are bound to be mediocre, in my opinion.
Okay.
Right. So, and I'll give you an example. Right. And you just say this. So before the draft, the Knicks had 5 first-round picks over a 3-year stretch. Right. In real time, we were on the clock in the deepest draft since maybe the Bosh LeBron draft, the D Wade, Carmelo, LeBron James draft. Now, will everybody in this draft be superstars like that? We don't know. Probably not. Maybe that draft was 1 in a million, but in order to be compared to it, it's saying something, right? Mm-hmm. You have 5 first-round picks. You have young, attractive players like Obi Toppin, RJ Barrett, Emmanuel Quickly, right? And you don't trade up in the draft to try to get you a generational type talent.
I have a question. Okay. If the draft is so deep, why would you need to trade up?
Because the draft is deep with quality players. It's not going to be deep with you're not going to have Hall of Famers 1 through 30. You'll have Hall of Famers maybe 1 through 5, 1 through 6. Most drafts not even going to have a Hall of Famer, bro.
Okay, but you mentioned the word deep. I'm trying to get to that point. You said the draft was deep,
with quality players. With quality players. Who would you rather have, Duarte or Grimes?
Duarte. I would rather have Duarte.
Right. So that's my point. Quentin Grimes is a quality player. I'm not knocking him. but he is not as good as or has the upside of the guys that went before him. And so the talent level continued to rise the closer you get to the number one pick.
So let me ask you a question. How do you know the Knicks didn't attempt to move up in the draft? And how do you know Indiana would even took their offer?
Because we know who Scott Perry is. Scott Perry is averse to taking risks. And Leon Rose is new and proves to you that he can't negotiate with other front offices, because if he could, we would have got help for Thibodeau at the trade deadline the season before.
Freezie, let me ask you a question. All right? Because right now, this just does not make any sense to me. If the whole world knows that the draft is very, very deep, right? And everyone, knows that there's generational talent in this draft, or they at least assume that there's generational talent in this draft. Why would Indiana trade down?
I would say it like this, right? I'm satisfied with the car that I drive, and I don't want to sell it. But if somebody gives me an offer that I can't refuse, you know what I'm doing? I'm walking home with money. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. Like these teams, they're like, no, I want this guy. But when you offer, are you saying that if you offered that team young talent and multiple draft picks, that they wouldn't consider your offer?
I'm not trading a bunch of young talent and multiple draft picks for Chris Duarte, Freezie. That's not
yeah. I feel you, because you don't want to win. You want to believe in this front office doing the safe thing, is because you Navy. You can't help it.
I don't want to win. Wait a minute, hold on. I love trades. I want the Knicks to be aggressive.
No,
I'm not saying I want the Knicks to be aggressive, but I'm not going to assume that the Knicks didn't do their due diligence and actually, didn't ask these teams what would it take to move up to pick number 14. I mean, I just think that it's irresponsible to assume that this front office is not doing anything and that they're not looking at all possibilities. Right. Leon Rose came out and did an interview earlier in the season where he said that this team wants to remain aggressive. However, they're not going to go too crazy, which, okay, I'm fine with that. Now, ultimately, they're going to have to make that move.
What did he say? What did he say? I missed it.
He said that the front office is going to be aggressive when it comes to trades, right? But they're not going to be irresponsible, which I agree with that. Okay. Which I agree with that. I want to see it happen. I'm with you. I want to see it happen, but just because it has not happened yet, I'm not going to say that the front office is incapable of doing so. I just think that's very, very irresponsible.
Tell me, on my part as being a Knicks fan, I don't think it's being irresponsible. I think, and so in my opinion is your actions tell the world who you are, right? Your actions. So so we've been on plenty of live streams together, and people will say something to you and you stand your ground. You're like, yo, no, I ain't say that, and I don't believe that. That let me know that you have a certain level of integrity and you're not gonna go either way because the masses say a certain thing that's different, right? But this front office, however, if we take that same line of thinking, these dudes, they went and got a safe player in Quentin Grimes, right? Josh Christopher was on the board with higher upside. You know what I'm saying? Maybe, maybe he won't be ready, but when he does pop, he's got the potential to be a legit 15, 16, 17, 18 point per game scorer, right? Keon Johnson had the potential. We all considered him to be the next Latrell Sprewell type player. Same body type, same everything, right? The Knicks didn't take a shot on him. They made the safe pick.
So let me ask you a question. If there was still talent available, because like you said, it's a deep draft, why would they need to trade up?
Because like what I'm saying, bro, the draft, it's not linear. The draft starts at a certain talent level and it slowly decreased over time, over pick. And most drafts, like the RJ Barrett draft, how many guys outside of the top two would you feel comfortable starting your franchise with?
Not
Ja, after Ja and Zion, you're looking at everybody else like they're complementary players, right?
Right, but that's a different draft than this one. Now, apparently that one wasn't as deep. This one is deep. So I'm okay. Okay.
Right. That's my point. My point is if you feel like, let me ask you this. Do you feel like the organization at the time had a void of high level talent?
Was the organization void of high level talent?
Yes.
During this offseason's draft?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So why not take a shot at getting some of that high level talent?
What I'm saying is they might have taken a shot, but they might have just got turned down.
Okay.
It's no way for us to really know. And if the draft is deep, I don't see no reason for us to trade up in the draft that, by your own admission, is very, very deep. Why trade up? And why would another team in their position trade down? It just doesn't make any sense.
It depends on. See, but we can't think for those teams from a Knicks perspective. We have to think for those teams from that team's perspective.
That's what I'm doing. That's why I'm asking the question. I'm not talking about it from a Knicks perspective. I'm looking at it from Indiana. They had pick 13 or 14 or whatever it was, right? Why would they trade down as a Pacer? Right? This is a deep draft. Why would I trade down? And if I know I can potentially get someone that's considered generational, and Chris Duarte is not generational.
No, he ain't generational. I think he'll be good, but he ain't generational.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, so are we going to trade up for someone that's not generational? You mentioned Duarte. That's the reason why I said that.
I would rather have Duarte right now than Evan Fournier.
I think that's very easy to say that right now because Fournier hasn't been playing that well. I think that's very, very easy. But let me just highlight some more of these comments real quick. Anthony D. Freezie, let me in, bro. This is a one-on-one. You can't save Freezie. You can't save him. I got it. I'm going to take care of him. All right? Trade the third. We can't do all the right things. But if other teams don't want to commit to our offers, and that's it. I totally agree with that. AD said, luckily for UnclefOOlio, because I would have his Navy Brank singing taps right about now. Very funny. I am Jarrell. Salute to you, my man. He said, we can't make up narratives in our head just for the sake of saying the front office is lacking. So far, they've drafted well, and I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. Salute to Stafford on. What's up with you, my man? Andy and closest Knicks front office got to sign at DeRozan by signing Dotson. That's funny. All right, so let's kind of change courses just a little bit. So we talk about what the front office did or did not do. I know you're not the biggest fan of the front office. But we're going to talk about what moves are there to make moving forward, right? So what moves do you think the Knicks can possibly make moving forward? Like, is there any trades or free agent potential out there that you want to see the Knicks actually go out and do? The draft, obviously, there's some good talent coming out of the draft this year, or this upcoming year. So what do you think the Knicks should be able to do moving forward in order to get better, to potentially turn the season around, and even, for next season? What do you think?
Starting when? Say starting today?
Yeah, right now.
Okay. All right. I think the kids should play.
Okay.
Right. I think the kids should play with 4 games under 500. Right. And a team in an Eastern Conference that most Knicks fans can agree is a very tough Eastern Conference. Right. And at the same time, we have the stuff going on out there in the world with health and safety protocols and all that stuff. And it's going to affect every team differently. So we have an uphill climb, right? What I would do is play these kids, not starting them. I'm not saying start these kids. That's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying do soft tank, do long-term reboot. What I'm saying is right now there seems to be beef going on, and it seems to be beef going on in the locker room.
Right.
We don't know that for sure.
Yeah, we're gonna touch on that too. We're gonna
right. And so I want to save that for. But what I'm saying is last year we had harmony in the locker room, right? Or at least it seemed that way. It was harmonic. Do you remember the Big 15? All of that stuff. Mm-hmm. You brought in 2 guys. The chemistry of the locker room seems to have changed. You want to get back to the way we were last year. How do you go about doing that? By getting rid of the guys that rock the boat, right? That's what I would do. In my opinion, I would look at some type of organic rejuvenation, right? Like, say for instance, getting what we can for a Kemba Walker. Maybe seeing if we can entice the Clippers to give us a BJ Boston and something for Kemba, right? And with Fournier, people know who Fournier is. Fournier is going to be a marginal starter on a playoff team, maybe off the bench. What I would look to do is entice a team to take on Fournier, maybe the same contract for lesser years. or maybe even consider a Malik Beasley type deal, where you give Minnesota size and a veteran to go with that young team. Give them, and we'll get a guy that they want to play and can't because they have Anthony Edwards. That'll give them D'Angelo Russell, Evan Fournier, Anthony Edwards, a combination like that, and we get a Malik Beasley type player. We can have him play at his natural position, the 2, since RJ has already started the season at the 3.
Okay.
Depending on Malik Beasley's mindset, because when he's dialed in, he's about 18 points a game in good defense.
Gotcha.
When he's dialed out, then he's guns and weed and girlfriend arguments on the street. You know what I'm saying? So
I got you. Okay, so I want to respond to that, but first, before I even respond, I want to highlight the super chat. Very much thank you to Ivan Omar with 30 of the Malaysian ringgit, right? Malaysian ringgit. That's what MYR means. 30 ringgit. So he said that we tried to trade up for Duarte but didn't succeed. The rookies Freezie mentioned are not contributing somewhere in the G League. We got Deuce and Grimes. It's not the front office that's failing us, it's Thibs. Now, I partially agree with that because I don't think Thibs is actually failing us either. I think we're kind of overreacting when it comes to that point. But once again, thank you for the super chat. I'm going to highlight something that you said. You said you want to play the kids. That's the first thing that you said, right?
Right.
Do you think if Thibs starts to play the kids more and the kids get some of these starter minutes, right? Let's say to the extreme. Let's say that these kids are getting 30 minutes a game. Quicklies, the OBs, the Grimes, the Deuces. Let's say these kids are getting upwards of 30 minutes a game. Do you think the Knicks are going to be a winning team this year, or do you think they're going to be a losing team?
No, I think who we are right now is who will be going forward.
Even with the kids play more minutes.
Yeah, because not because the kids aren't talented, right? So chat. Let me explain it. It's not because these kids aren't talented, but it's because you have to let kids play through and learn from their mistakes, right? Because a lot of us grow by learning things by failure. Failure helps you grow. So I know it seems wrong, but for those that really want it, that really want success, we have to learn from mistakes, right? We have to learn by doing, right? And so what I'm saying is I don't want to give these kids starters minutes. And the scenario that I mentioned, what I would prefer is RJ and Quickly be the backcourt for the rest of the season.
Okay.
Right. RJ Quickly, move RJ back to the 2. I'm saying, get you a journeyman 3 from somewhere, maybe in one of those trades or whatever. Right. Put RJ at a more natural, comfortable position. Right. Play Rose as the vet off the bench. Leave Rose in his role because we don't need Rose to be the MVP. We need Rose to be a mentor. Okay. We don't need former MVP Derrick Rose because we're not at that stage, right? Because if he was at MVP level, we wouldn't have been able to acquire him from Detroit, right? He's at a mentor level, and so we want to mentor him, or have him mentor Miles McBride and Quentin Grimes. You know what I'm saying? Slide McBride into the Quickly role and McBride in the Burks role, and then have them learn from roles along and let them earn more minutes as they go. I don't want to give them more minutes. I don't want them starting. I want them to succeed, earn more minutes, earn more minutes. Don't want to give them anything.
So this is a big misconception from fans and from everyone who acts like the Knicks don't play their kids. We do play the kids. It's not like Thibs is not playing these young guys. He's all about playing the veterans and stuff like that. So the kids actually play and they get meaningful minutes. Emmanuel Quickly gets meaningful minutes. Obi Toppin gets meaningful minutes.
RJ Barrett
gets meaningful minutes, right? I understand that you want to see Deuce and Grimes play more. Maybe that's something that Thibs can do and try to incorporate them in there because Evan Fournier is not really giving us nothing from game to game. I understand the last game he had 30, but pretty much, if it's not Boston, Evan Fournier is not going to have a good game. That's just pretty much what I've been noticing throughout the entire season. And I think the front office, going back to the front office, they kind of messed that up, right? But it's really all on Fournier, because Fournier, I thought, was a pretty solid. No, he's not nobody that's going to like shake up the franchise or anything like that. I thought he was a solid pick. He's just not been playing well, right? Yeah. But I do agree that if Fournier is not going to play well, if he's not going to give it his all on defense, you got to take some minutes away from him. Because defensively, you're not going to get that. You knew that when you signed him. And offensively, if he's not knocking down shots, then I don't see a reason for him to really be on the floor. When you can have a Grimes on the floor that can be able to knock down some shots, who's not afraid to shoot the basketball, who can play defense, right? So I definitely want to see Quentin Grimes out there. So I totally agree with that. But I just think there's this big misconception that Thibs doesn't play the kids, and that none of these kids are getting any time, and they're not developing. That's the other part that I keep hearing. How are the kids developing if they're not playing meaningful minutes? They are playing meaningful minutes, and they are developing. Look at Obi Toppin. He played 10 minutes last season. Now he's up to 14. I would say that he's developed from year 1 to year 2.
Right. He's playing 19 minutes in December. 19 minutes a game in December.
Exactly. So
averaging 11 and 5.
Thibs is playing the kids. Thibs is trying to do the best he can to be able to figure out, what lineups he's going to go with and stuff like that. I don't agree with the move to bench Kemba. I thought that was terribly executed, and I'm going to talk about that in the next segment. But what I do want to say, and what I do want to highlight, is the Knicks salary cap situation, right? So this is the Knicks salary cap situation. Obviously, in 2021, 2022, that's this season, right? Going into next year, the Knicks don't have much money coming off their books. So unless the Knicks make a trade this season, this same team that we have right now, plus the rookies that we draft next year, are going to be the same, roster that's going to be going into next season, right? So the Knicks have to make a trade to get better, or they have to make a trade in order to bring in someone, or else it's going to be the same thing, going into next season. And I think the front office will make a trade. I think that the way the contracts are set up, the way, the draft situation is set up, I think the Knicks are going to make a blockbuster trade. If not this season, it's going to happen in the offseason. And I think they're going to acquire that other guy to come play along with Julius Randle. I truly, truly believe that. As you can see, you see Mitchell Robinson. His contract is expiring. I don't expect the team to pick that up, right? Because how much is Mitchell Robinson gonna ask for, right? Is he gonna ask for $10 million? Is the team willing to pay him $10 million a season? I don't know. The Knicks are already cap strapped, right? So as far as this season is concerned, they don't have much money coming off their books. Kevin Knox is $5.8 million is coming off the books next season. The team is most certainly going to pick up RJ Barrett's $10 million contract option for next season. Obi's they're going to pick up. Emmanuel Quickly's they're going to pick up because they're all team friendly. But outside of that, the Knicks don't really have any room to get better outside of making trades, right? So I think it's very important to highlight that and to let people know that, listen, I know you want to keep these kids around, but if you do want to do that, just understand that these same problems that we're seeing right now.
Does Joakim Noah come off this year?
I don't know, but I don't think that goes with the salary cap. I just think that's dead money. That's just dead money that the Knicks are paying.
Okay.
So yeah, the Knicks are going to have to make some trades, and I think they will. That's why I disagree with you on is the front office incapable of doing that. I think the front office is very capable of doing that. I think we have the draft capital to do so, and I think we have a lot of players on this roster that can be intrigued by some other team, that are intrigued by some other teams.
When have they? And since they've been here, when have they proven that they can pull off a delicate move like that? If you show me how. When they've done it, then I can almost believe you.
Well, no, they haven't done it yet, but it's only been 2 off seasons, Freezie. It's only been 2 off seasons. Like, I mean, this stuff takes time for it to happen. Listen, I'm one of the biggest people that want trades to happen. I want the team to be aggressive, but I mean, I'm not going to judge the front office based off 2 off seasons, right? In which they've drafted well. I think that they've drafted phenomenal based on the picks that they had, and they also acquired more assets in the midst of doing so. So I don't think it's been completely bad. I don't think it's been, terrible. And I think the Knicks have the ability to deal. I think that's going to happen. So we'll see. And the last question I want to ask you, I know our time is getting very, very limited right now, but is there a rift in the organization? Now, the reason why I wanted to ask this question is because we're hearing a lot of talk about the Kemba and Thibs move, which I think was handled poorly by Thibs. To take him completely out the rotation, I think was completely bad. Right. At least if you're going to take him away from being a starter, you keep him on the bench, give him some minutes. I still believe Kemba Walker can help us in some facets of the game. He's not going to be perfect, but I do think he can still help us with his production a little bit. Right. So is there a rift in the organization? Is there a rift between Thibs and some of the players in the locker room, which I correctly predicted, right? Or do you think there's a rift between the front office and Thibs? Do you think there's a rift at all? Let's just start there.
So I will say this, and this is gut feeling, and I don't have legitimate sources to validate this opinion, right? This is my opinion. So chat, you know what I'm saying, when you think about what it is that I'm telling you, this is solely what I think, right? I think Thibs all along wanted to play these kids from go, right? I think McBride, Grimes, and Sims are players that Thibs could turn into Tibites, so to speak.
Tibites, I like that.
Tibites, right? Right, like the kids that were in Chicago, or the Keith Bogans and all. You remember all the kids, the kids that were in Chicago that played super hard for Thibs. They ain't ask for nothing. All they wanted to do was win. They didn't care about the All-Star game. They didn't care about contracts. All they wanted to do was go out and win. They wanted to lay their stuff on the line for Thibs, right? I think Thibs wanted to potentially, and this is my opinion, I don't have any facts, I didn't talk to Thibs, but I think he wanted to potentially start Rose at point, have Quickly be the immediate backup, and have Miles McBride get minutes from the start, be in a rotation immediately, maybe getting like 6 to 8 minutes a game so that he could learn how to run an NBA offense. Plus, he brought two valuable things to the court, right? He brought 3-point shooting. He's not Steph Curry, but he would have been okay, right?
He's a threat.
And he'd have brought, and he would have brought hard-nosed defense, right? So when you put McBride on the floor, you don't have to worry about a team going on a 10-0 run, right? Now, you may not have been able to score, but the team would not have run away from you. You know what I'm saying? He'd have kept it kind of close. The same thing with McBride. I think Thibs wanted the organization to go out and get a small forward, bring back Reggie Bullock. I think that's what Thibs wanted to do. Bring back a Reggie Bullock, leave RJ at the 2, play Grimes behind them, behind Burks, but you know what I'm saying, behind them, and get limited rotation minutes also, right? But the front office went out and got 2 dudes that don't even fit the Thibs prototype, bro. Thibs like big physical point guards, or that can get 2 feet in the paint, that could spray out the 3-point shooters.
Right.
And they went out and got the complete opposite in a 6-foot guard that's small and frail, that can't defend and can't get in the lane.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think Elfrid Payton fit that profile?
Yes.
Okay.
I think so. I think
so.
And
that's for everyone out there who question why would Thibs play Elfrid Payton and all of that. That's the reason why. Everything Freezie just said. A big physical point guard that can be able to get to the paint. Now, I get it. You know, Elfrid Payton can't shoot. I understand that.
We know that.
But Thibs likes big point guards like that for their defense at the point of attack and the ability to drive and get in the paint and the paint to spread it out.
And for as bad as he looked, he got us to the playoffs. Think about that. With all his flaws, Elfrid Payton got us to the playoffs, bro. We could say Randall and a whole bunch of other stuff, bro. But in the grand scheme of things, the point guard we had last year helped us get to the playoffs, right? Mm-hmm. And so with that point I was saying about the kids being in the rotation, getting limited minutes and earning as they go, like Moses Moody is in Golden State, him and the other kid, Kuminga. Is it Kuminga?
Yeah, Kuminga.
So you see how Kuminga and Moses Moody are earning minutes? They start at the back of the rotation and work their way up. I think that's what Thibs wanted to do with Grimes and McBride. You know, it's the reason why they played so much together in the G League. I mean, not G, but in Summer League.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I think he wanted to give Obi more minutes also at different positions. And I know it's going to sound like sacrilege, but some of the 3, a lot at the 4, and some at the 5. Right? He just wanted Obi to be on the floor. Get your best athlete on the floor and bring these kids along. Thibs, my belief is Thibs wanted to play the kids, but the front office, not only did they go out and sign Kemba and Fournier, they re-signed a bunch of veterans to block the path of the kids. So if you ask me, are they on diverging paths? Yes. They are not on merging paths, because if they were on merging paths, then in my opinion, they would have traded up in the draft, got a guy. If they could have, blah blah blah. We will never know the full details.
Let me ask you a question. You said that they signed a bunch of veterans. Who are the bunch of veterans that they signed?
That they re-signed?
Well, no, you said signed. You said they signed a bunch of veterans. So
right. Okay. So in theory, they re-signed veterans that they already had, and then they signed 2.
Okay.
Right. So that's what I'm getting at. And when you look at who they signed this offseason, they didn't just sign a bunch of young people. They re-signed vets they already knew.
They already had.
Right. And then they went out and got 2 other veterans.
Okay. I just want to respond to what you said, but let me highlight some of these comments in here. MacArthur Clutch, he said Kemba scored 29. Okay, they lost. He took 30 shots. Vaughn Cheetah says, yes, there is a rift. Tibbsdale lost the team, and Tibbsdale don't want to play no young players. That's not his MO. Again, we went over it. The young players are playing. It's not like the young players aren't playing. They're playing. You know what I'm saying? You just said you want to see them more. You don't like the fact that, they're playing in backup roles or off the bench or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Reek OMY says, just because you drafted as a number 3 pick doesn't make you a forever starter when you have no all-around game and not athletic. I think that's what he was trying to say. RJ has 2 left feet with no handles and is a horrible finisher. I don't disagree with a lot of what he said, but RJ Barrett hasn't been playing up to expectations. That's just plain and simple. He just hasn't. He said Grimes is a better overall all-around player than RJ Barrett. I don't know about that. We still got to see, right? And he said Grimes should be starting. Reggie Bullock is the only guy Trae Young can guard. Okay. Let's see. RJ and Grimes, who is better? A lot of people are saying Grimes is better than RJ. I'm not ready to say that yet.
Right. Because we prisoners of the moment, bro.
RJ needs to be the number 1 option. I don't agree with that. What has he shown to show that he can be the number 1 option? Besides a couple of good games against New Orleans, and I forget the other game where he scored a lot of points. He has not been consistent with that yet. If RJ Barrett becomes consistent at San Antonio, if RJ Barrett can become consistent and do that game in and game out where he can demand the ball and be able to run the offense through him, I would have no problem trading Julius Randle, particularly if Julius Randle's not playing well. But because we don't have anybody like that, Julius Randle's the best guy we got. So we got to have someone to come play alongside Julius Randle, right? So that's just how I feel about that. Marcus Miller, thank you. He said Alfred played neutral basketball. We never had a big deficit with him. Keep it close. Let Jules close out was the plan. Okay. And let's see. Your water is leaking. I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
I don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So, yeah, I just want to respond. So I think there is a rift in the organization. I don't think it's a rift between the front office and Thibs. I think it's a rift in the locker room, right? Which I correctly predicted. When anytime you bench, you start talking about taking minutes away from veterans, it's a very slippery slope. I understand that Kemba Walker was not playing that well, right? But to take him completely out the rotation was very, very questionable for me. And now you have this issue where, it's some players are for the move, some players are against it, or some players are for Thibs. Now some players are maybe questioning Thibs a bit, right? So I think that, as fans, we want to see just let the kids play all the minutes. But in reality, you can't do that. On a team, coaching a team, the veterans run the locker room. So if you lose your veterans, and Freezie, I heard you mention this earlier, if you lose your veterans, you lose the locker room. So right. I think there is a little bit of a rift with that, with the Kemba benching. I'm not saying he was playing well.
Right? Which veterans are you losing? Because Thibs is not losing Taj and Julius and Rose. He ain't losing them because they care about.
I'm just saying we don't know. There's a lot of stuff that we just legitimately don't know. But what I'm saying is from experiences, I've coached high school football. I've coached, I've been on a lot of teams and I've coached before, right? In football.
What unit did you coach?
Offense. I coached quarterbacks. I was an offensive coordinator, quarterbacks coach. But anyway, enough about me. But what I'm saying is, again, you have to play it. It has to be a slippery slope with that. You can't just go out and bench all the veterans and play the kids because, again, once you lose those veterans, you lose your locker room, and that could be detrimental to the kids as far as their development. So I think Thibs kind of played it wrong a little bit. And I think if there is a rift in the locker room, we might be talking about Thibs losing his job. We might be talking about
out of here. You know.
I'm not saying I'm for it, but again, knowing James Dolan's history, and anytime you have a coach that has completely lost the locker room, I think that, you can start hearing those rumors, and particularly if the Knicks don't win games, I think, that's going to be put out there. What do you think about that?
No.
Yeah. Why not?
What?
Why not?
Because okay. So obviously you can't put former number ones on a team with a shaky number one. And Evan Fournier, yes, was a number one option on a team. And yes, Kemba Walker was a number one option on a team. And you put them on a team with a shaky number one. They feel like they could just take over and be the number one option on this team. And Julius Randle, to his credit, any man that got guts is like, I'm not letting you come in here and take over my team. You crazy. If it were you, Uncle Foolio, would you let a former number one that played on 2 or 3 other teams come in and take your team from you?
I don't think Evan.
But you Navy though, you Navy, so you Navy, so you probably did the diplomatic approach and said something like, I don't think they wanted to come in and take over. See, I'm Army, bro. I'm not letting nobody come in and take over.
I don't think that's what they're doing.
Yeah, you diplomatic, bro, because you Navy. I feel you.
So let me just highlight this. I know this Army talk is getting in his head or whatever. But Ivan Omar, he said Thibs overprotection and preference for Randle, not holding him accountable even when he plays bad is what's going to kill him. Morales. How do we know Tom Thibodeau's not holding Julius Randle accountable? What do you want him to do? Go in the media? You want him to go in the media and say Julius Randle is playing terrible? He's playing like crap. You want him to say that in the national media? You think that's gonna help the morale for the team by doing that? So how do we know he's not holding Julius Randle accountable? I just think as fans, we are, we can't. I don't know. It's hard to explain.
But Uncle Phil, no matter what question you ask, you can ask a question about the front office, and fans want to blame Randle. You asked the Thibs question, and Randle got the blame. Just saying, bro.
Yeah, I think people are just focused in on Randle. I think they need somebody to blame. And I get it. He's the best player on the team. I don't think he is a number one option on the championship team, but I think he can definitely contribute. And right now, the roster is just not properly built for the Knicks to be that successful. And on top of that,
what?
I don't.
Am I hearing things?
No, and I know you're going to bring this back to the front office. I understand that, but again, I think that the front office is flexible and they can be able to still do that.
Okay.
I think they can still do that. That's my whole thing. They haven't been great, right? But they haven't been terrible either, right? And I think, the Evan Fournier thing and Kemba Walker thing, we were hoping that was going to work out. So far, it hasn't. And now Kemba Walker's out the rotation completely. And now there's some sort of rift in the locker room with that. So I just personally think the Knicks should have kept everything as it was. Left Kemba in there probably. If you want to cut some of his minutes, which Thibs was already doing, the defense was getting better, because he did that. I think if he would have stayed with that, the team probably would have been in a better position. But now he's kind of run out of cards. Now, who are you going to take out the starting lineup now? You're going to take Fournier out for one of the kids? You don't think that's going to be propose some sort of rift in the locker room? So I just think fans need to really just relax, calm down, and let this thing play out. I think everything is going to work itself out. And Ivan Omar, he says he doesn't have to go to the media like he did RJ, but at least do it in the game. He shouts at everyone when they make mistakes except Randle. You honestly don't know that. You honestly just really don't know what's going on in the locker rooms and with the team. We're assuming that he doesn't hold Randle accountable, but you just really don't know.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And again,
you're not
you have to game. Right, and you have to be, as a coach of a team, anytime you have your best player that's not playing his best, you have to be very, very a slippery slope. It's a very fine line about how far you can be able to push it with your best player. You have to So again, we can say all this stuff as we want as fans. I understand our frustration, but Thibs is the one who has to be in the locker room with these guys every single day, right? So I get it. I'm just telling guys to just calm down, calm down.
And plus, I'm more. I have a personality type like Julius Randle. Like, give you an example. When I was in basic training, drill sergeants used to yell at me right? And I used to tune them out, right? Tune them out, man. I had two young parents that used to argue every day, so I was used to yelling, bro, and them yelling and screaming and all that stuff that didn't bother me. But what motivated me is stuff like they were like, Uncle Freezie, listen, if we do such and such and such, we'll win, right? And see, that motivated me, but it not only motivated me to do my best, it motivated me to go and motivate others. So what I'm getting at is everybody doesn't have to be coached the same way. Like RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickly need to be yelled at. They respond to that, right? Julius Randle might respond to a talking to. You know what I'm saying? You can't coach everybody up the same way. And then when you see certain things as a Knicks fan, you can't assume that Julius Randle is not getting the ire of Thibodeau in a different way.
Right. And this toxic Knicks fan says Pop yelling Duncan all the time in front of the camera. Thibs ain't Pop. And obviously Julius Randle ain't Tim Duncan. You can't treat everybody the same way. Everyone don't spank their kids.
Right.
Everyone doesn't spank their kids. Some kids get put in timeout. Some kids get PlayStation taken away from them. You know what I'm saying? Some kids don't get talked to at all.
Right. And you got to learn. You got to learn the person. You have to learn the person.
Correct.
Right. It's like Phil Jackson. It's like Phil Jackson and Scottie Pippen. Phil Jackson never yelled at Mike. He talked to Mike. Right. And then with Scottie, he would do Scottie a different way. He'd be like, yo, I don't know if you noticed this or not, but if you want to be great, you got to do what Mike doing. And Scottie is like, well, what is Mike doing? And Phil Jackson be like, well, you know, Mike been in the gym. Mike studied it. And Scottie Pippen responded to that. The coach before that, when Scottie Pippen looked like a bust, people forget Scottie Pippen looked like a bust his first couple seasons with Doug Collins yelling all up one side of Scottie Pippen and down the other side. Phil Jackson came in and got in Scottie Pippen's head like, man, listen, if you want to be great, you got to kind of do what he's doing. This dude over here.
Right.
So you got to coach people different. And so when it looked different on camera, don't mean it's preferential treatment. It just means it's different.
Totally agree with that, my man. Totally agree with that. I just want to highlight tonight at 8:30, we got the Queen's Court hosted by Queen Steph right here on MBK channel. So make sure you tune into that. It's going to be fun. I should be have some time to be on it tonight. Myself, Queen Steph, Tony Crow, maybe Cornerstone Kev will be there. Who knows? But tonight we're going to talk about, the current state of the team and what happened in the last week or so. Probably touch on Steph Curry breaking a record, things of that nature. So definitely tune in. That should be fun. Uncle Freezie, I just want to thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure. I look forward to doing, getting on Knicks Morning Drive with you, as the season progresses. Let people know where they can find you and how they can be able to access your channel and your content.
Well, of course, we do the Knicks Morning Drive 5 days a week. We try to get on about 8:45 every day. We do the Knicks at Night podcast Friday and Saturday nights. We also have Knicks Freestyle Wednesdays at 7:30. The Pod Couple Thursdays at 6:30. Old School Knicks Sunday mornings at 11. NBA 101 4 p.m. on Sundays. Tuesdays and Wednesdays we have Knicks After Party with Subliminal 209 and Cully. So we're doing a lot of stuff.
Cully.
Yeah. Shout out to Anthony D. Anthony D is in the chat. Anthony D and myself, we rock out on Sunday mornings, man. It's always a good time. We generally don't talk current Knicks. We generally get on there and reminisce about the Daryl Tuckers, the Rory Sparrows, the Trent Tuckers, you know what I'm saying? The Bill Cartwrights and things of that sort. It's old school Knicks. Some old school Knicks, yeah, man. I don't like how you said old school, man. You intimate that we old as dirt. But nah, man.
Y'all not old. Y'all just experienced, man. Let's just keep it at that. Yeah, Thank you for getting on here, man. I really appreciate it, man. Definitely, everyone in the chat, definitely check out Uncle Freezie's channel, Blorange Tears. I have the link in the description of this video. Always a pleasure. He has some really good content over there, and I look forward to getting on there next morning drive and coming to contribute some more. So thank you again, Freezie.
In the Blorange Tears debate league, so you can come up there and get dusted up.
I don't think y'all want that smoke. I don't think I want that.
Okay, I got a championship belt right here that I would gladly put your name on if you win it.
You might as well do it right now because you know I'm going to win.
Okay.
So
Okay, you seen the
don't even matter.
person, right? You seen the belt in person. You know it's legit, right?
Oh yeah, it's legit. It's the real deal.
Okay,
It's the real deal, Holyfield. Thanks again, Freezie. I appreciate it. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. All right, so check out Queen's Court tonight at 8:30. Check out Blorange Tears. I got the link of his channel in the description of this video. This is your boy UnclefOOlio, and I'm gone, ladies and gentlemen. Peace.